All right, we've got 7 o'clock. We usually start our meetings at about 2 minutes after, so we'll give folks a couple minutes. Hopefully, we'll get a few more folks to join us this evening. Um, so, did I just lose somebody there? Oh, okay, never mind. So yeah, we'll get going in about 2 minutes here. Hello, Kristen. I see you've joined us. You gave me a good little giggle today because at least I'm not the only one forgetting what day or what month it is. As I opened up the newsletter document, I saw you had it titled for August. Um,
Oh, shoot.
everything else you had right was correct in it as far as being July. It was just the title of the document or the title of the newsletter, and I caught that. I'm like, oh, good. I'm not the only one.
Well, I'm glad that you caught it because I would have felt bad if it would have went out saying it was August. Then everyone would have been confused.
Yeah, yeah. It wouldn't have just been us then. It would have been everybody going, "Uh oh, somebody's
Yeah.
been smoking something over there at Normal." But yeah, I just kind of roughed out a real quick one on what we talked about yesterday. Basically, the restructuring. I reached out to National today, and probably sometime tomorrow they'll drop the sample of the new bylaws into my asset box, asset folder. Um, and we'll kind of start moving forward from there. But I thought you'd get a kick out of that.
Yeah.
It, you're getting a little ahead of yourself here this summer. It's been feeling hot like August.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's for sure.
All right. Well, I'm sure. Excuse me. Damn COVID. Excuse me. Not joking. I have 7:03, so it looks like we're about ready to get rolling here. As always, I will start our meetings with. Let me see if I can find it. Our disclaimer that all of our meetings are an environment of education and awareness and are not an open market for the sale, purchase, or distribution of cannabis or cannabis products. We do not encourage or condone illegal behavior of any kind. So I want to welcome our guests that are with us here online today and also welcome any guests that may be watching this later on our YouTube channel. My name is Scott Weldon. I am the director of Lowcountry NORML. We're located in the Charleston area of South Carolina. You can find our website at normal, NORMLSC.org. Um, if you want to visit there. This is South Carolina Cannabis Conversation Online. We started this a few weeks ago. I want to say we're maybe on week 5 or 6 now. I'd have to go back and look. Um, because we need to make this conversation more prevalent here in South Carolina. Um, as many of you may know, we are probably uh, trending toward being one of the last states to reform any of our marijuana laws, except for possibly the hemp laws that we got passed in the CBD laws a couple years back. As far as medical marijuana, that's kind of done again for this year. As far as any decriminalization state level, again, done it for this year. We'll have to wait for elections and then the new legislature to start next January. I believe, if I'm correct, somewhere mid to late December, they're allowed to start doing early filings of bills. Um, so somewhere in between finding out who wins the elections, in and who's going to be cannabis friendly here at state level. I'm assuming if Tom Davis from Beaufort County wins his election, he will again go back to redrafting the South Carolina Compassionate Care Act, which he proudly touts as one of the most strict medical marijuana laws in the nation. Um, we obviously think that it needs quite a bit of modifying, um, if not a complete overhaul. But we're not here to really discuss that specific bill at the moment. Um, we were supposed to have a featured guest this evening, special guest Janelle Ralph from the Compassionate South Carolina group, also owner or co-owner at least of Palmetto Harmony. Company was named Palmetto for the state of South Carolina. Harmony, her daughter, who has had seizure disorders, seizure disorder issues throughout her life. And Janelle was also one of the ones that was very prominent, along with Jill Swing, in pushing the CBD hemp laws here in South Carolina for the purposes of aiding their daughters with the seizure disorder. Much of it spurred on from seeing Dr. Sanjay Gupta on TV with the Charlotte's Web marijuana specials that started a number of years ago, and that was one of the first ones. And they were finding that the high CBD cannabises were able to, seeming to benefit, especially children with seizure disorder, but pretty much people with seizure disorder. Unfortunately, Harmony, I'm told, had a rather rough day. It's taken its toll on her and on her mother. So Janelle will not be able to join us this evening. um, she's asked if we could reschedule and get her on board for next Sunday. So mark that on your calendar if you would. We're hoping that everything goes smoothly, and we'll get Janelle Ralph here next Sunday. Boy, do I have a calendar in front of me to even see what date that is. No.
It'd be the
All right,
26th.
that'll be on the 26th. Yeah, me and math, we're not getting along today. Add 7 to what today is. All right, so yeah, hopefully she'll be here with us next week. So I'm really just got nothing for you today. Uh, the biggest news, and Kristen, you and I think, spoke about this a little bit yesterday in our board meeting. Um, I think the biggest news for South Carolina this week was that Senate candidate Jamie Harrison was quoted in an interview of supporting legalization, regulating like alcohol and tobacco, stop locking people up for it. Jamie Harrison is the Democratic nominee that's running against Lindsey Graham here in South Carolina for that federal seat. As many of you know, Lindsay has not been a fan to cannabis legislation throughout his career. He's been sort of known as one of the three horsemen of the apocalypse uh, when it comes to legislators at the federal level that put a lot of effort into blocking cannabis reform legislation. Uh, uh, with that said, I'm not advocating to vote one way or another as far as party goes. But many of you that may sit and listen to me through these kind of conversations, who have met me, uh, tend to know that I vote on issue, and the issue I vote on is cannabis. People will say, "Oh, you don't like this candidate, so you must have liked that candidate." One, no, I didn't like that candidate either because they didn't have good cannabis policy. So it doesn't necessarily matter what side of the candidate, the aisle the candidate is on. Uh, I I base a lot of my voting on what's your cannabis legislation. Where do you stand on that? Um, and It's hard to get a candidate to come out and uh, to say that they support legalization. It's been getting easier over the past few years, but even here in South Carolina, I think many of them. And I'm going to say this about all legislators is they tend to try not to vote or not to run on the issues. They try not to say a whole lot and commit themselves to any of the issues. Um, they want to try and win the election on their smile and their pretty face and what is it? Shaking hands and kissing babies with a mask on now, apparently. But they many a times you try and corner them on an issue and they don't want to talk about it pre-election. Um, and excuse me, folks. And even when they do speak on an issue before an election, after an election, their attitudes and opinions often change. Um, so, anyway, I find it's very good news that we have a local candidate running against Lindsey Graham that is actually coming out vocally mentioning for legalization. Um, uh, I sort of wish we could pin down some of our others. Locally, I've been after Joe Cunningham for at least a year now, if not a little bit more, to try and nail him down, to try and get him to commit, to try and get him to make a definitive statement, get to sign on to the Cannabis Caucus, anything. And I think I get a little bit more of non-committal speak out of him than anything like. Here I'm going to tell you what you want to hear. And being that he's on a Veterans Affairs Committee, I really think that he needs to get behind some of the veterans cannabis bills that are out there at the federal level. Sign his name on there as a co-sponsor. Um, and there's at least two of them. I don't have those documents open in front of me today that are related to vets at that level and on the federal level. One's on research. Um, and the one I believe is for medical use. I'd have to go back and check. Um, anyway, that's sort of my rambling at the moment of what's going on legislatively here in the state. We have elections coming up. Uh, with our normal chapter, we've just joined on to this year's round of Smoke the Vote. I'm going to quick dig that up. I believe you can find it online, smokethevote.org. Is it .com? Is it .org? Let's see what we got. It is .org. And let me wait for it. No, it didn't actually take me right to the Smoke the Vote site. Where did it take me? Um, I'll be sharing that on our social media sooner or later. Uh, but what that is right now, and maybe I'm not finding it on normal site that easily because what it is it's a scorecard for legislators. They do it nationwide. We will be reaching out, and you know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, I am going to go find it on another folder because I want to share it with you all. Uh, Not that one. There we go. Let's see if I got a couple attachments I have to look at quick and see if I find the right one. All right, I'm not finding where I had it. I had it open just the other day. I'm going to do one more search. I doubt it's going to be there. It's an old file. Okay, probably not live at the moment or something. but it's oh, it might be another way I can access it. Let me click this button. Okay, now I'm not seeing the actual data guide at the or the data at the moment. But what it is an opportunity for us to go in, reach out to local legislators, which I'll be doing over the next couple of months, trying to get them to make some committal statement one way or the other, enter that data into the database, um, and then they will at some point grade each of the candidates as we move closer to the elections in November. Um, And as many of you know from seeing these type of things in the past, our legislators usually don't score very well. C's and below, I think our lovely governor is a D minus. Um, just doesn't want to hear the arguments for and listens to too much of the rhetoric and uh, bad information that he gets from the Justice Department to against. So that's my ramble on that for Smoke the Vote. That should be coming out later on this year, probably, well, November elections, probably at least in early October, to help people make those voting decisions. Um, I can't think of anything else new. State level, there is one thing at normal about, there's the one I'm looking for. Uh, writing to Henry McMaster, and oh, that's not the one I'm looking for. But anyway, um, about I'm going to pull that one up right now just because it's pertinent. Contact South Carolina Governor Henry. There we go. There we go. All right. Basically, it's deprioritize marijuana enforcement to protect public health during COVID-19. And this is out on the normal site. Um, Let me backtrack one here. If you go out to normal.org and then you click on, let me go back there, take action. When you click on that take action, it'll bring you to this page. Scroll down just a little bit. You will find where it says Governor of South Carolina. As you click on that, it will open up this letter. So we just ask you to kind of go over here where it says start writing. You can read over it, modify it to fit how you feel, or add in maybe some of your own comments on this. Uh, as we know, unlike our voter initiative ballots, these type of petitions don't carry any real power. We just hope that if we can inundate the governor um, with this advice from our organization, and hopefully he gets similar advice from other places, that they do prioritize. I can't even say it at the moment. That is something that Charleston, city of Charleston, did, I believe, about a December, last December, I believe it was, where they actually put out a statement they were deprioritizing simple cannabis arrests, and that had nothing to do with the COVID. That had to do with reducing the prison population. The prison was built for 600, and I think they had 2,000 in it, something like that. Um, Anyway, so that is one other piece of action that is going forward here in South Carolina. Is an online. I did get a request from a viewer last week. I fib. I recently responded to him, but I think the request was from about 2 weeks ago. Um, asking about the ability to do these other types of online petitions like that for our legislators. And through our platform that we have through Normal, um, we do have the option to draft and create any number uh, of petitions and send them off to any legislator, I believe, that's in the system. They all, if they're elected officials, should be in the system. Um, we can do it where basically, as you're entering your information with your address, it'll pick your legislators for you here in the state automatically. Um, Unfortunately, I am just not really good at drafting these things. I'd really rather we have somebody that was on our board or an advisor that had more of a legal background and also much better at writing letters than I. I just watch some people and they will whip stuff out in no time, and I have to start a blank document, put pieces together, and move them around and reread it, and spell check it, and who knows what. And still, it takes me days to finally get through to write a one-page letter. Um, so I try not to do that a whole lot, but that really is the best way to let our legislators know, besides, of course, our voter initiative petitions that we've been trying to start to circulate last year. Um, we have them still viable. I mean, they're still out there active, but with the pandemic and everybody being kind of shut down and needing an actual physical signature on a physical document, it slowed that down to a screeching halt. Um, and one other thing I'll really briefly bring up in connection with that and about our local normal chapter is that we are going to be reorganizing, updating our bylaws. Hopefully, actually, it was in our newsletter that we put out earlier today. We're going to actively start searching for some new volunteers to work on our board and to also come in as volunteer coordinators, legal advisors, whatever assistance we can find. Um, uh, the reason for the reorganization partially was there was another chapter in another state that's recently been disaffiliated, uh, uh, and part of the uh, thought train behind where their chapter violated was it was structured the same as ours, where people can vote in um, uh, board members. And apparently, some board members got voted in there that had uh, mindsets that were not necessarily in alignment with the overall principles of normal and low country normal, um, and and the civil rights aspects that we we fight for so strongly. Um, And when we were discussing that with National not too long ago, we realized that, oh, we are working under an older formation. They had actually updated the bylaws a few years ago, um, probably not long after we actually signed up, but we organized in a different structure. Um, so I put out the word, and I will probably sometime tomorrow have those new bylaws dropped into my asset box, um, and we'll start looking at what we need to do to reorganize, and also to reach out to find some new board members. One of the exciting things I think for me on that one is we're offering with that uh, a cannabis advocacy certificate program through Greenflower, so that any nominees that actually qualify and become board members, they will have they'll be compensated for taking this actual advocacy course. It's a 10-hour course. It's online. Um, you sign up for it, and uh, you take it at your own pace. I believe once you get enrolled, you have up to 90 days to complete it. And really, at 10 hours of content, you should be able to get through it a little quicker than 90 days, I would hope. If anybody takes 90 days, it's me. I'm like, I get so sidetracked in the middle of something. And then I'm like, oh, yeah, I got to get back to that. And I finished their cannabis fundamental certificate program back in April. In about 3 weeks, I think it was. Um, and the first 2 weeks of that, I was really kind of like puttering around with it. That the final week, I had to knuckle down a little bit and finish up. But that's kind of the way I operate. I work better under a deadline. Um, more motivated under a deadline. But that is something that we definitely want to do. So if it's either yourself or somebody you know, somebody that's watching this on our YouTube channel in the next couple of days or weeks, um, wants to, we have included in our newsletter tonight a link to the nomination form. Also, the nomination forms can be found on the board member page of our website. Uh, I look behind me. The only thing else I was going to talk about tonight, marijuana board games. I don't know if you've been joining us very often or not, but I think Kristen's taken note on the fact that I've been trying to change the board game behind me each week. I collect marijuana themed board games, or at least related. They don't always necessarily be themed, but there's some connection on most of them. Uh, there's a couple that are slightly outside the genre. Matter of fact, another one I just ordered today, and it has to do with drug smuggling, but it's cocaine instead of cannabis. Um, but some of them are like from the early '70s. I think the earliest is from actually in the '60s, a pullout from a record album, I think. Uh, and they're fun, and it's sort of interesting to watch the progression of how they were formatted and what the concept of them was back in the '70s. Of mostly, either you're smuggling or you're a dealer on the street or you're doing running from the cops or things like that. To some of the newer ones now, where you're actually building your legal grow operation. So you have to go around and buy your lights and get your seeds and blah blah blah. And so it's sort of a reflection of the times. Um, and Not a whole lot of people know about them, but I get such a kick out of them. Matter of fact, just this week I learned of a new one from like the 1970s that I had never heard of in the past. I think I've been collecting them now for about 3 years. Anyway, that's my ramble for tonight. I don't know what screen just moved away from what because something looks weird here. Oh, there we go. But at this point, I'm going to ask if anybody wants to chat. Open up your mic and kind of introduce yourself and say hello. If you have a subject or something you want to hear us talk about. Um, oh, I'm still on share. That's why I'm not finding that other screen. There we go. Technology and being old. It doesn't always go together. Um, and even if it's not off the cuff tonight that you have a subject or something you want to talk about, email us later at lowcountrynormal@gmail.com. Any suggestions, any guests that you might suggest that we have on, aspects of cannabis uh, law reform that you want us to talk about. I know for the most part, for the past few weeks, we've been trying to keep it general and on a little bit of everything. Even with the ACLU with us last week, we even got to touch on civil asset forfeiture. Um, I haven't really gone too strongly into the what we feel are the unconstitutional aspects of, oh, I think I smell marijuana, especially now where we're in a state where hemp is supposed to be legal, smokable hemp. It depends on what county you live in. My understanding lately is it really depends. It's been left up to the individual counties and or sheriff's departments in those counties to kind of uh, lead with what they believe should be legal or not. Of course, again, Senator Tom Davis did respond back to them saying, "Hey, it's processed, it's dry, it's dried, it's cured, so that's processed. Processed hemp is legal in South Carolina. Um, doesn't mean that the enforcers necessarily want to interpret the laws that way. They like to interpret the laws in a way where they can imprison you and such like that. So anyway, boy, here he goes rambling again. Otherwise, if nobody's going to chime on in with me, I think I've talked your ear off enough for tonight. I do again apologize that our guest wasn't able to visit us, but do come back and visit us again next week. Again, Janelle Ralph with Compassionate SC should be with us talking about hemp and their efforts to increase the THC levels from the 0.03% up to 1 full percent. Um, from what little I know from what she's talked about, or I've seen her post, it really relates to an efficacy point on making the hemp more and the CBD type products, those full spectrum CBD products with the low THC, uh, more what's the word I'm looking for? Viable, more effective. That's the word I'm looking for. More effective, and it's believed by many of us that with the synergistic effect of all the different cannabinoids working together, you do need that bit of THC in there. 1% isn't enough to be getting anybody high. Um, but it does really affect the effectiveness of the cannabis on these different at least that's the claim. I can't be making medical claims. I'm not a doctor, and I don't want anybody to come after me and go, hey, don't be making medical claims. But that's what I'm hearing from a lot of the parents anyway with children with seizure disorders is that it helps. A little more THC would be beneficial. A good example, and again, I'm rambling again, but a real good example, Jill Swing's daughter. Um, Mary Louise. They've had her to legal state at least once that I know of, and it maybe more. I've never really talked to Jill about it since then. That was a couple of years back, but they did have, and a couple of years ago, took her up for 30 days to Massachusetts, and I didn't ask for details, but I did ask her, did she see positive results from medical marijuana versus the CBD products that they had been using, and she said, "Oh, definitely." Um, so that little extra THC in there, and again, I don't know what level she was using. Mary Louise is still a young girl, but a couple years ago she was even younger, so I'm assuming it had very low THC levels in it. Um, but it really seemed to help, and that's why Janelle's fighting for that here in the state. And again, if we can get behind it, any action we can, we will get behind when it comes to changing marijuana laws, cannabis laws here in the state of South Carolina. Uh, that's it for me. Again, Scott Weldon with Lowcountry NORML. Visit our website, normalsc.org. And I hope to see you all back here again next week, Sunday at 7 p.m. Use the same link that you had this week, and we'll see you here. Thanks for visiting. Bye bye now.
Thank you.